Greetings, programs. And how are you today? Fantastic. Well, I realize that it's not quite Sunday when this is going to be uploaded, but whatever. So, the point is that I had to adjust to get back into the rhythm of I need to have responsibility over things because I just got back from camp down in North Carolina at Gardner Webb University, hosted by Crossroads, which is a church organization. So that's what the majority of my little vlog post here is going to be about. So, start at the beginning time. So, it was on Monday that we left, and we had to get up and be at the Water's Edge Newport News campus by 5:30 because that's when they wanted everyone to be gathered. Blah blah blah. The buses that we took up there, we took two double deckers, and then there was like a charter bus, but it was a fancy charter bus. And I took a double decker on the way up, but on the way back they had things sorted by class, and the senior and junior classes had to take the charter back. But like I said, it was a fancy charter bus, so I was okay with it. I didn't mind so much. Besides, I slept most of the way, so it's not like it was uncomfortable, except for like the way I slept. But I'm getting off topic, kind of. On the way up, we had a lunch stop, and we got to stop at Chick-fil-A. Well, we had four different places, but that's where I chose to work. And that's where I found out that, because. So, on the way up, we had a lunch stop, and we had four places that we could stop at. And one of them was Chick-fil-A, and that's where I went. On the way back, because of how crowded we ended up getting Chick-fil-A when we went up, we had to go choose a different place. We still had four places, but we had to choose a different one for the fourth place. And comparing the two, I found out that I really like Chick-fil-A's service because their walk-around staff is a lot more polite. Their cashiers are more polite, and there you are a name, whereas the other place that I had to go to was you were referred to as a number. I'm not going to say the other place because, quite frankly, it might have just been that one, set of not customers, employees, and so I don't want to bash on a whole business just because of one set of employees. But point is, Chick-fil-A is amazing. So that's why it's called God's Fast Food Restaurant, because they're so polite and awesome. So we got up there, and before we went into the dorms and set up everything, we were given of course, we were given our dorm because we were at a college campus, and we were given our roommate. And I had the same exact setup as last year. I was in room 313 in the Lutz Yelton little dorm area, and my roommate was Mark Miller. Mark, if you're watching this, hey, you're awesome. Mark is pretty chill and just go with the flow on things. So if I say, hey, I'd like for us to be awake at this time, so if one of us wakes up before the other, wake up the other one, he'd go with it, and it was fine. Jack, stop it. So it was awesome. Went there, went into the Lutz Yelton Convocation Center, which is essentially just the auditorium type place that we went in for services, and had got the rules. Went, had dinner, and then went back for the evening service, chilled out around the place, and then went to bed. And so, next part, starting at Tuesday. So, the way that the schedule works is you wake up, and you can pretty much choose whenever to wake up. I typically ended up getting up at 6:45 because at 7 is when the cafeteria opened. Thing I love about the cafeteria, it's a buffet. I love buffets because I like to eat a lot and I like a variety of foods. I like trying new things, and like I had this new pasta-y thing that was there. That's beside the point. So the doors open at 7, and you try to get in line around then. And the little rule that they have with Crossroads Camp is that the guys should take the plates, like the empty plates and trays of the girls. Which, that makes sense. I mean, come on, guys, be a gentleman. And it has been my experience each year at camp and just overall that just about every girl likes that. I haven't really come across a girl who hasn't appreciated that. So, you know, have some common sense, be a gentleman, and, you know, maybe we'll get rid of that stereotype that all guys are thugs. That's like floating around. Hate that stereotype. But that's not what I'm really focusing on. Anyway, so there's that. So breakfast. Then there's the morning service. Now the doors for the services that they have, because they have a morning one and an evening one, the doors open 20 minutes before, and that's so that everyone can get in and get to one of the sign up tables for the activities for the day, or if you're at the evening service for the next day. Uh, and they've got a bunch of activities. They've got various sports like ultimate frisbee, soccer. I don't know, they don't have football. They've got basketball, volleyball. Just I think that's what they have. There's also some creative stuff like there's improv, which I did one of those. They've got crafts daily. They've got a jam lounge. Um, let's see some of the other things they've got. They've got a swimming pool, but you don't have to sign up for that. They've got a river, which you do have to sign up to go because it's not exactly on campus. It's a little ways away. And then they have an obstacle course, which you just sign up for a spot while you're there. And they have the rock climbing wall, and I'll get into that later. So you sign up for that, and the other thing is that once you can get a seat. That's part of the reason why I want to show up early. Unless some church is being cheap, and our church did this a little bit too, and is reserving like a row or a section, which, like I said, I find it kind of cheap, but what are you gonna do? Still, if someone gets there, then just let them sit there. I mean, if you're just huddled in your own church, then that kind of, you know, be around new people. If someone not from your church wants to sit in your section, let them sit in your section. It's not like we have specific church sections. Just, you know, sit, mingle, have mixed churches and such. You know, that's kind of the Christian idealism. You know, reach out to different people, but not gonna focus on that too terribly. Anyway, so there's that. Then Clayton King, who is the pastor for Crossroads, he will play with the entire congregation a game of Clayton Says. It's Simon Says, and there are two rounds essentially. The first round, he gets the majority of the congregation out by what they're wearing and such like that. So if you have something in your hair, if you have a certain color article of clothing or a certain article of clothing, if you're wearing your lanyard a certain way, all those can be ways that he can get you out. Or he'll say like, if you're wearing such and such, then you're still in. Or if you had a cup of coffee, then you're still in. So he'll do it that either way. Then the next round is the actual, Simon Says type deal, and he'll get you good. You'll be running up, and he'll point at someone and say stop, and if you stop, then you're out. Or if he says run to the front, then when you get to the front, you have to keep running. So he gets pretty tricky about it. Unfortunately, I'm always eliminated in the first round of it, and I don't mind when there are two things that get me out. Like if he says, Clayton says this and you're still out, then you're out. Then I'll be like, dang it. But if, later on he says, if you do this and I don't apply to it, so I'm out. Then I'm like, okay, fine, it's fair. It's fair. So he does Clayton Says, and then as we get into it, there are some prizes that he gives out for the winners. And there's always a little boys and girls competition. So, boys won 3 games, girls won 2 games, so guys win for the week. Or last year, it was girls beat guys 3-2. It always seems to be 3-2 so far. Then again, I've only gone for 2 years, so what the heck do I know? So then the next section after Clayton comes up, and then there's worship, I'll get into that in a bit, but I want to stick with AJ and Donovan at the moment. AJ and Donovan are hilarious. They are like, they're up there with masters of talk show improv type deal. The things that they last year they it was more kind of scared and random, but this year it's a little bit more of a routine type deal because they have a news network type setup with it. It's not actually an official news network. It's just Crossroads funny. So they'll have pictures of things that occurred the previous day, and then they essentially caption the pictures. They come up with statements about, they just talk about the picture and come up with hilarious stuff about it. There's weather with Jesse Wiseman, and she'll just have pictures that are brought up of different weather type things or maps that have charts on them, and then just come up with funny things to say about them. At one point, they talked about like there was a huge lightsaber thing going on in the eastern part of the United States, and then AJ was just like, "Western part of the United States must be the Star Trek fans." Just a joke like that. Then there is the live, well, kind of team, and they are out the day before at different events, and their big constant was they were talking about like a worldwide hopscotch tournament, even though everything except for the first little blip that they recorded was not related to everything after that was not related to hopscotch in any way. At one point, they interviewed an inchworm named Fred. It was funny. So there was that, and they also had announcements that tournament stuff that's going on, teams that won from previous tournaments from the day before. And the other thing that they had, which I really enjoyed, and I'm glad that they've kept that both years, is the morning song. And I'm going to do that for you right now. Way up in the sky, the big birdies fly.
But down in the nest, the little birds rest.
With a wing on the left and a wing on the right, the little bird sleeps all through the night. Shh. They're sleeping! The bright sun comes up, the dew falls away.
Good morning, the little birds say.
Awesome. Anyway, so yeah, that's the morning song, and you might be able to see, kind of why I love it. I think they might have come up with that on their own, and so yeah, they're smart, they're hilarious, and just overall amusing. Then they'll have a little talk, and the talk that they do for the morning part is in two different parts. The first part is done by Matt Orth, and he did a lot of talk in Romans, and the theme was one, and of course it was talking a lot about the one way, one mission, Jesus, kind of his plan for us, stuff like that. And I've got the notes. Alright, so I got my notes. And some of the things that they were talking about was there's identity, and that's what makes you you. And a lot of us find, as Christians, we should be trying to find our identity in Jesus. We shouldn't be, like for me, I shouldn't be Sean Nelson being a Christian, because that means, what that means is, I shouldn't be in every Christian thing I do. It's, I'm putting myself into all these Christian things I'm doing. No. I should be a Christian being Sean Nelson, which means in everything that I do, I should make sure I, do it in the most Jesus-y, Christian-y way that I can. And that doesn't mean be perfect and be that whole holier than thou type thing. But, like if I'm going to be doing YouTubing, I shouldn't, I should try to have some, I should try to reach people that way. Like, I think what it's really trying to say is don't keep in your relation with Jesus. Don't keep that to yourself. Share it with other people. Try to spread it to other people and show them, how much joy you found in it and how much joy that they can find in it. It doesn't mean be in everybody's face, though.
You should love Jesus because you're a dirty, rotten sinner and you need to find Jesus because he's awesome and join Jesus and love Jesus, Jesus, God, Jesus, I love Jesus.
If you were like that, no one would ever want to talk to you. And there are some people who are actually like that, which is just, it's silly. So don't be like that, but instead of, in every Christian thing you do, be like, but yeah, I'm me, I'm a Christian, but I want to be me. No, just be like, this is who I am, and I love Jesus, and Jesus. I'm having a hard time explaining this. Like, I get it. I have a hard time explaining it though. I think kind of the words that Matt used was that when we are focused on being us, who is also a Christian, then we want to conform to what society likes and what society thinks. And so if they're hating on Christians, then we try to hide that part of ourselves. Or if they are accepting of this trend, then we try to incorporate that trend into ourselves. Instead, if we are a Christian being us, then we're okay with who we are. And instead of trying to meet what society thinks, we just meet what we think and what Jesus thinks. Of course, this principle can be applied even if you're not a Christian. You can just be like, I'm going to be who I'm going to be. I'm not going to conform to everyone else. I'll just be me. But, if you are a Christian, then, it's kind of goes without saying that you will kind of conform to what Jesus thinks, at least over time. I mean, no one's perfect, but, speaking off of my own experience, you kind of become more and more like the ideal Christian as you go along. But that sort of topic is kind of something that I'll save for some other time, or blah. Another thing Matt talked about was with melody and harmony. You can't have everybody be melody, and melody would be the leader, because if you have a whole bunch of melody, then it all clashes, it doesn't go together, and it sounds awful. So you need to have harmony. It's good to have one melody. You should have a melody, something that is the head, the focus, all that. And for Christians, that's Jesus. But sometimes you need to realize when you're the melody, when you are the focus and in charge and everything like that, and when you need to step back and be harmony, when you need to think about what can I do that's better for the whole of the group, as opposed to the group needs to do this because I say so. And that's kind of what the message for that is. So those were some of the things that he talked about, and there were some others, but I'm just gonna leave it there. And then there was I think it was a Megan something. She would do interviews of some of the staff, and then Matt would come back on dressed up as somebody, or I think Daniel, who is the main improv leader, he came up at one point, and he was pretty funny with it. But yeah, that's and they do kind of their best to talk about and represent some of the ideas of what Matt had stated and do it in a fun, hilarious way. Then we'd go off, we'd have lunch, and then we'd have our activities. And I mentioned some of the activities. For Tuesday, I played 2 games of a game called Epic World Domination. Now, for those of you who don't know of this game, it's essentially a capture the flag ish type thing. I forget what it was that someone described it as. It was really good. But you have goals, like baskets, on either side. Um, you have a couple 3-point ones, a 2-point one, and a 1-point one baskets that you can get into. And then they have these tubes that are on poles that are worth 20 points, and there are ones that look like a mortar shooter type deal. And those are the 5-point ones. You have three kinds of balls, and you have like the McDonald's playpen type balls. You have the red plastic football and the blue plastic football. The red ones are worth 2 points, no, double points. So whatever basket you get them into, you get twice that basket's points. If you get a blue football, you get 3 times that basket's points. Now, something that they added. Let me finish with the basic stuff. Each team has about half the court, and it's like just a large field. I wouldn't say it's the length of a football. No, it's not the length of a football field. Like the length of a basketball court. And on one half there's the black team and the white team. And if someone from the black team goes on to the white team, then members of that team of the black team can tag them, and then they have to go to this area in the center, which is the jail. And there's a jail break every 3 minutes. So if you get in when there's 30 seconds left before jailbreak, then you only have to wait 30 seconds, which I took that to my advantage, and a lot of other people did too. And then there are some areas around the outside of the ring that are free zones, which anyone can go to safely cross over to the other side. And that's kind of how that works. And everyone has a headband for their team color, so you can kind of get that. Now, something that they added a tank. Not a real tank, but it's just this metal frame with some plastic wiring to kind of keep a sort of confined space. And maximum of 4 people are allowed to pilot the tank. And the way it is you have to lift it up and then carry it over, and you can carry it over to the other side. The tank acts as a safe zone. If you leave the tank, you pretty much automatically go to jail. You can't just use it as a waypoint. The only switching that can be done is on your team's side. And they also in the tank there is also a wooden platform in the middle for the person, for any one of them actually, and only one person to stand on and to give them a height boost to plop stuff in. And also there is a bucket that you can load up with balls, and only in there. You can't carry in your pockets, can't carry in your shirt. If you're in the tank, you have to only use that bucket. If you're just running around, then yeah, you could stuff your pockets, fill up your shirt. But if you get tagged, you have to drop everything that you've got where you stand. And what my team did, and it helped us a lot in the first game, but then the second game everyone started to get the idea, is we took our tank, loaded it up with the blue footballs, went over to the team's 5-point goal because we weren't allowed to plop them in to the 20-point goal, and we just had the tallest one of us stand on the platform and just plop them in, and we loaded up both of their goals with the blue and red footballs. At the end of the game, it was 1,700 to 1,400. We won by 300 points. The next game that I did, the rest of my church was playing on the other team, but I was still on the black team because I had my Tank Team 2013. But they ended up beating us by 40 points. Part of that I can argue that one of our teammates just was not doing something that we told him to, which would have helped us, but not the point. Point is, my church won, and I had the pleasure of going to the second floor of the cafeteria, because there are 2 floors, and I got to publicly announce that I am sorry. I apologize to my church for betraying them like a traitorous traitor, and I got clapter. So it was awesome. And yes, I realized I said clapter. It's a new word. It's like laughing and clapping. Whatever. Anyway, doesn't matter. So that's Epic World Domination and the new edition of the tank, and so that was awesome. So then there's dinner, and then there's the evening service, and the evening service is done by Clayton King, and let's see, some of the things he talked about were the one thing. He keeps the main thing, and the main thing is intimacy with Jesus. So, and the overall concept of that talk was get as close to Jesus as you can, and never let go, which I thought that's a good thing. There's also that like one mission. Jesus gives you a purpose and a dream. Through him, we both have access to the Holy Spirit. The next for Thursday night, Thursday night, that dude was on fire. He had his sermon, and it was based off of Romans 1 through 16, and Romans 12, 1 through 16. And he got through to the first one, and he started talking for like 10 minutes just off of that, just because spur of the moment. And he got to the second one, and then he just essentially did a whole nother sermon. And he told us as such. He's like, my staff's excited right now because they're getting something that's completely different from what they've gotten the past couple of weeks because of doing the same sermon. And I was just amazed because the Holy Spirit was totally talking through him, because like whole different sermon than we had. He still did his initially planned sermon, but the dude was on fire. Just I mean, some of the things he talked about. He talked about more on the melody and harmony thing, that God is the grand conductor, and our one mission is to preach to the world and make disciples. Wherever you are is your mission field, which I'm going to talk about with YouTube in a bit. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. Cliques are bad, which is true because I'm going to kind of sum up something that he said. He was at a school, he was doing great, and he set up a Christian group, like club, at his place, and everyone was a part of it. And then like the next year, I think, or after some sort of break, he came back, and just virtually nobody wanted to talk to him. I mean, he used to be popular before that break, and then he came back and no one wanted to talk to him. And he asked somebody what's up, and they said because you're hanging out with all these weirdos and freaks. And so if he was going to do that, they couldn't be friends with him anymore. They were fine with him being a Christian, but not with the people he was hanging out with. And he thought to himself, these are the people that I need to reach. They're lost. They are far from God. They need the kind of help. That's why I'm there, to help them to be better than they are and to get close to Jesus. So if you're against that, then I can't be friends with you. And it's kind of powerful, and it's true. I mean, if someone's going to bash on you because of the people that you're hanging out with, especially if you're trying to reach them to get closer, for them to be closer to Jesus, but there are other people who are like, we can't hang out with you, and it's because of cliques, it's best not to hang out with those people. I mean, let's face it, they're jerks. I could probably phrase it nicer, but I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And something that I ended up coming to for a semi-different reason is that on the track to, this is something that I'm going to say. This was my own little preaching thing to myself, and I'll share it with all you. On the track to God, there are pits of foreboding before each hurdle of sin. Therefore, I must and shall work twice as hard to reach God. And what that means is that there are people who they have sins regularly. And I realize this is running long. I don't care. You can listen to me preach because you love me. You subscribe to me and you're checking me out. Anyway, point is, back to the main thing. If you think of reaching perfection as like a track, that's the metaphor I'm using here. And it's like hurdles. Now, everyone has sins that they struggle with regularly. It might be, and I'm going to put the biggest one out there, That's just blunt. Pornography. And everyone watching just felt awkward just now. Pornography is a big one. Lying is a big one. Um, Respecting your parents is a big one. Or disrespecting, rather, would be the better way to phrase it. Um, so there are big sins that we struggle with daily, and they're a hurdle to get over. My one from last year was lying. I've stopped lying, as I've mentioned before, and I've been going for over a year now. Woo. Another one that I'm going to blatantly put out because I think it should be known, and I think that someone else with the same problem should see that someone else is struggling, someone publicly is struggling. For the longest time, pornography was an issue for me. It was. I'm going to openly admit that. And I made it my goal, my dedication to not do it anymore. Just not at all. If I catch sight of something as I'm flipping through, like something that's a little revealing, because come on, Facebook. That's another thing. I'm going to get to that in just a moment. Then, of course, my eyes are going to skim past it, but I'm not going to go to those sites. I'm not going to look up that material. Just no, I'm done with it. Because, like lying, pornography screws you up. If you don't believe that, then you are just as addicted as I was, as I still am. Now, I haven't done it for a couple of weeks now, and I'm kind of proud of that. But it is a struggle for me, and I'm determined to not do it anymore, because I don't want that to ruin any sort of relationship that I have. Granted, those thoughts and images are still burned into my head, but I don't want it to be like 20 years later and I'm into a marriage and my wife catches me looking at that sort of material and she just feels inadequate and unloved. No. Stopping it, cutting it cold turkey right now. And I made it official as of church. So, if you're thinking that no one else is struggling as bad as you are, or if you're thinking it's not as big a deal, there are people struggling. I'm struggling. It is a big deal because it can ruin lives. It can ruin marriages. So there are other people struggling. They're just not willing to admit it because it's so embarrassing and it's so hush hush. And some people try to play it down because they're addicted. They don't want to admit that what they're addicted and what feels pleasing to them is wrong. And we all know it's wrong. We do. If we didn't think it was wrong, there'd be more people doing it. And it wouldn't be so hush hush. So we know that it's wrong. And then again, I'm not here to bash on you and preach hellfire and brimstone. Thing that spoke to me thing that I got out of it was that, there are hurdles of sin, that being one of them. And the problem with some of these hurdles is there's pitfalls before them, pitfalls of foreboding. And the reason why I came up with that is because there was Shari, his wife, was preaching when this came. Clayton's wife, Shari, was preaching for him because he was doing a guest preaching that day. And she was talking about how she was going to climb a mountain and she really didn't have any other choice because the van had already left. And she looked up and it seemed so daunting and she didn't think she would be able to do it. But she did. She got to the top. So, I figured for my little track metaphor, it's a pitfall. And you fall into that pit and it just seems like a mountain that you have to overcome. And you think it's just not possible. And that's part of the issue with lying because people think, I need to lie. Or with pornography, people think, I'm addicted. I just have to do it. Pitfalls of foreboding. So you have to work twice as hard. It's not just overcoming the sin. Because there's the foreboding with, this sin is so integrated into my life, how could I possibly overcome it? So that's what I got out of it. And like I said, so far I've been sticking to not lying. and I'm currently working on getting over my addiction. So, figured I'd share that because that was something that I felt was important. And then the next thing that, the last thing that he gave us in his sermon for Thursday, that Clayton gave us, was Jesus gives the gifts, like prophecy or, being funny or whatever your talent is, whatever your gift is. And personally, I think some of the stuff I'm doing with YouTube, entertainment, I think that's my gift. Entertaining. There are other things that I think I'm gifted with, but I like to focus on my entertainment gift. I like that. I think that's part of what I'm called to do, is to entertain. So Jesus gives the gifts. Jesus makes it grow. And Clayton gave a whole thing about how it's been 18 years that he's been doing Crossroads, and he has no idea how it's gotten as successful as it is. He's just like, Jesus, you did this. Your fault. I hardly did anything. You did this. Not that's a bad thing. I have a problem with the phrase fault, like it's your fault, it's my fault, in some instances, because sometimes it's just that someone's the cause of something. It doesn't mean it's their fault, because fault is bad. I keep getting myself so sidetracked. I'm sorry. I'm making this take forever. So the other thing is that we grow up. The other thing that Jesus does is Jesus calls the shots. It's kind of a no-brainer. The other thing, we grow up, because we have to mature. We work, because everyone has a job, everyone has to work at everything, and we love. We were made to love, essentially. We were made to love each other and to love God. Sometimes we don't always do what we were made to do. The other thing is that we are prepared for works of service. We preach the gospel and we make disciples. And I learned that a lot this week. At least we are prepared for works and service. Because Thursday, I don't know what came over me. I guess it was the Holy Spirit. But at the lunchtimes and everything, at the meals, I stayed until they were over, just cleaning up people's trays, picking up after them. And another thing was that they wanted us to do accents for when we cleaned up people's trays and asked them, and of course I did. There was my Scottish accent, there was my Irish accent, which isn't all that different, there was my English accent, there is the Russian accent, there was a Daffy Duck accent, which was hilarious when I said, "Can I take your dishes?" Try a couple other random accents. There was a Sean Connery accent. There was an Indian accent as well. At one point I tried the Jamaican accent. So I did those, and people found them entertaining. I actually have a note. Let me grab that real quick. Sean or Sean, S-H-A-W-N versus S-E-A-N. Mine's the latter of the two. We don't know how you spell it. We appreciate you giving up your own time to serve others. We realize that there were other things that you could have done instead. You have a great heart for serving others. It's nice to see someone step up and humble themselves when they don't necessarily need to. God has great things in store for you. And shout out to the people who wrote this for me. Nicole, Tori, Danielle, Dorothy, and Allie. So, y'all know who you are from camp, and I thank you so much. I really appreciate that you took the time to write this for me and to, hand it to me for me to read. I really appreciate it. It made me smile so much, and I'm keeping this. I'm holding on to it. And they said, P.S. Your accents are immensely amusing. Well, thank you, ladies. Anyway, so there was that. Whole bunch of stuff. So yeah, it helps to serve, and I've been trying to keep in mind more of a servant's type mindset since coming back. Everything seems a little bit more difficult because I was more comfortable at Crossroads. but doing some of the same things over here, I'm trying to keep that. I'm trying to keep some of the same mentalities and servant-like qualities that I had when I was there, because those were good qualities. And why should they stop just because I'm no longer there? They should continue because they're fantastic qualities, and I loved having those. So, trying to keep those about myself, trying to do better, and I think what I'm going to end up doing is when I go back to school, I'll spend some time going around being like, would you like me to throw your tray away? Because we have like little styrofoam trays. I'll try to do something like that. See how it goes. 1 week later, whoop. I don't know. That was random. Anyway, so next thing of significance that I'll talk about. For Wednesday, yes. For Wednesday, I finally managed to get a spot on doing the rock climbing. Last year I couldn't because it fills up so quickly, but I managed to get in early enough the day before to sign up. And so, I went to do that, and they have two rock climbing things. They have a tower, which is just a weird amalgamation of different routes to do. And of course, I chose the hardest one to start off with and did it. It was awesome. And then they have a rock climbing wall. And there are multiple sides to it. There are like single person paths, and on one of them there's a challenge where if you used only the colored ones past a certain point, then and you make it to the top, you can rename that section. But you kind of have to have either like strong finger strength or long appendages in order to do that. I only made it like a third of the way. There's an inverted section where it's got like a way, it goes up and then regular forward and then straight and then so zigzags up. I made it all the way to a straight platform towards the top, and just my legs were shaking, my arms were and hands were sore. Rock climbing really uses from this part of your arm where I'm gripping with my fingers, you can see with my index finger, to the hand. It uses all of that. And because at least that's where I felt it a lot. It felt like I was wearing a glove of tension, like inside of my hand. And so I couldn't make it to the top of there. I probably could have actually, but I just didn't try. My eye is really itchy. Ugh. Anyway, then there's the straight wall, which is multiple people can go on. Also, multiple people go on the invert. Anyway, and I made it to the top of that one. So I made it to the top of each of both the tower and the wall. Afterwards, I went to do a class of improv, and it was awesome. Learned a couple new improv games, and then went to dinner and had, did routine stuff from there. And then for Thursday, I went and did the obstacle course because they have one that's out in the woods, and that was fun. My best time was 1:40, and it's pretty difficult to do. Most people got around 2 minutes for their time. The best time for the week was 1:20, 1:20, and the best time for the summer was 1 minute and 1 second. At least for the guys. For the girls, it was different, but the girls, I think it was 1:08 minutes for best overall. For the week, it was 1:40 minutes maybe, something like that. And then for the day that I was there, the best time was 1:42 or 43. I think it was 1:43. And then went back, got all washed off because the obstacle course you get muddy, and if you're not wearing the proper attire, you get cut up. That's just a constant. If you're not wearing the proper attire, you will get cut up on that ride, on that attraction. As it was, I got burns, and I was wearing long pants. Fortunately, the clothes that I brought, I had intended to get dirty and to throw away afterwards because they were crappers. So I went back, showered off, and then I went and got to swim in the pool. And then I just went to dinner after that. Now, the other thing is that after the evening service, there is chill time. First, there is group time. you talk with your church, and then for us at least, they broke us down into individual groups, and we talked about just what had happened, and then we had chill time afterwards, and we could go to, we could just kind of roam the campus, chill out in the quad. They had a coffee shop for us to go to, and I tried a smoothie, Wild Berry Blast. It's addictingly delicious. It really is. And then by 11 o'clock, you have to be in your dorm building, and by midnight, it's lights out. For Thursday evening, yeah, they had a was it nah for one of the evenings, Wednesday or Thursday, they had a junior senior event, and so if you were junior or senior, you went to their newest building, which was the student center, and you got to watch a video kind of promoting Gardner Webb. It's a college thing essentially, but they had snacks and they had food, and we chilled out with AJ and Donovan and just some of the other kids and played like this staring contest game where everyone looks down and you're in a circle and you look up and you look at somebody, and if you and that person make eye contact in that, like in that quick look up and stare at somebody, if you are making eye contact with someone out, both of you are out. So multiple people can get out per round. It wasn't until the last game that I actually won, but it was awesome. Also, chilling out with AJ and Donovan is just phenomenal because those dudes are awesome. And we played some. We didn't do anything as crazy as in previous years in the dorms. Like, there have been games of silent football, and there have been punishments that have been interesting, but we didn't do anything as crazy as all that this year. I think the worst that we got was dodge frisbee, where we had people in the middle of our hall and we'd throw a frisbee and try to hit them. Well, the other thing was infection, and that was fun. I'm getting this extremely longer than usual, so sorry about that. I'm just gonna kind of end here with the camp talk. We went home after that on Friday. We were all kind of sad to go, and like I said, slept most of the bus ride home. Parts of it were uncomfortable just because the angle I put myself at in some instances, but other than that, it was fine and fancy free. And we got one last morning service the next day. I got called up. They asked for like volunteers, and I went up, and so I got to be on stage. And he told it was while AJ and Donovan were riffing, and they had me and another dude come up, and they told us to make a pose for that they could caption essentially. And so I just did this crazy pose where I was just like, and meanwhile the other dude is just standing over here and he's just like, so and then they captioned it and it was fantastic. I'm like, yes, I get to be a part of the show. And even though I didn't earn the WEC bling, our church's little sign of you did good or you did something courageous, even though I didn't earn that, which is I'm completely fine with. I got it last year, and I was hoping new people would get it this year. Otherwise, I would have felt awkward, be like, I want to give it to someone else, give them that honor they experience. Even though I didn't get pointed out in the WEC bling type way, they when I got on stage, they were like, hey everyone, show of hands, who all got their tray picked up by Sean here. And there were a bunch of people raised their hands, and I was so happy because I'm like, yes, I got to be mentioned and pointed out because everyone likes that. We should try not to be like that, don't show your left hand what your right hand is doing sort of mentality, but it's still nice when you do get pointed out for doing good things like that. It encourages you to do more good things. So we went home, and then I got back Friday. And like I said, I've been trying to adjust, which is why this is later than it usually is because it's way past Sunday. So there was that. So sorry that I've been using a lot of time to talk about camp. Last thing that I'm going to talk about real quick is one more thing. I need to mention this. I need to. The worship leader his name was Carl Carty, and his wife is with him, and the drummer's name is Steven. I only know because I met him at one point. I don't remember the other two. I'm sorry, guys. If I remember their name, or if they comment or anything like that, then I'll make sure to leave an annotation with their names. But they were such phenomenal worship leaders. I've experienced several, and out of the ones that I've experienced, they are my favorite. They just, whenever they're playing, I feel so into it. I feel so surrounded by God because, something I believe is that God is in music, and just emotion overall is in music. There's so much energy in it, so much passion. I really do enjoy music. Just about everybody does. But something that Crossroads does that I really enjoy is for the praise and worship, they have a little part at the front of the stage. It's not any specific part, but you can come up while they're playing to right in front of the stage and just be there and kind of chill out. It's not a mosh pit, it's a praise pit, and it's awesome. I love being there, and I just love being what I love about camp is I love being surrounded by all these people who are my age, who are my mentality, who I can get along with them. And I realized I said, I was nixing on clicks earlier, but that doesn't mean you can't be surrounded by some people who at least have some like-mindedness with you. I really liked it. I really did. It was fantastic. And that's part of what draws me back each year, is just to get to experience that. The worship and the praise pit. All of that. That's everything camp-wise I had to talk about. The last thing I'm just going to say is just with videos I intend to get, when I post Terraria, I'm going to try to have two Terraria videos. I have those planned in my schedule, because after this I intend to upload a Minecraft thing. I realize y'all have gotten a bunch of that over while I was at camp, which is why I'm not going to be posting two. I'm just going to post one, then I'm going to post a couple of Terrarias, a couple of Happy Wheels, something else for Thursday. I've got that already lined up. I just need to make sure it's rendered. And then I'm going to do two Slenders, and that will have me caught up as far as my videos and what needs to be, because of course I didn't post some of the things that I had scheduled to post over the last week. So that's my plan. Thanks for listening to me for this long. If you liked, rate, comment, subscribe. Next year, make sure you try to get a spot like Go with the Church to go to Crossroads. Become a citizen of Hyrule today. And I will see you all next time. Have a great day.